I don't think anybody ever told me that I had the passion for music. That was kind of a thing that I kind of knew. I was always into art, and growing up, I was like, I learned how to read through my mom's comic book collection, so it goes back through that. But I was always the kid with headphones, and I was always reading like Double XL, Source, and Murder Dog when I go to like the barbershops and stuff like that. And so Rap City and Yo MTV Raps, MTV 60 Minutes or 120 Minutes or whatever, all that stuff, I constantly was like watching music videos and stuff. And so I always had a passion for music, but didn't have the desire to like to play an instrument. When I saw the movie Juice, I was like, dang, I want to be a DJ like Omar Epps' character GQ. I was like, that's the coolest thing in the world. And I saw that when I was like young, like maybe 5 or 6 or something like that. So when I got older, it was still kind of like in the back of my head. And I was like, yo, I think I want to try this. And my god brother had a record label. And he's like, I want you to be the A&R because you know a lot about music and you probably could lead us in the right direction. And I said, well, I'd rather just DJ. He said, well, you can do both. And I said, okay, well. And so that led me to like trying to get equipment. And I was like, busting my ass like waiting tables at the time, and it's funny. I like talked to DJ Fingerprint. He was working at a record store called Bebop, and I was like, "Hey, I want to get equipment. What do I need to do?" He was like, "What do you have?" And I was like, "I don't have nothing. That's why I came to you." He was like, "Well, when you get something, come to me." And I was just like, "Oh man, why you do that?" And then he told me later, he was like, "I couldn't teach you anything because if I show you on my equipment, you couldn't go home and practice." And I was like, "Well, could just said that," but I understand. I completely understand. But to not have, not know anybody or have any like, musical experience or anything like that, it was really daunting. So it was just one of those things like, if you don't try, you already failed. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I need to try and I need to get so I did a lot of research before I even got my first equipment, and I ended up getting some CD turntables, some Denon 3500s, and they had a direct drive motor like a real turntable. And I took my grandmother's 45s and I put them on top of there so I could have the feel of vinyl on top of there. And so that's how I got started. And I started DJing in a place called 7 Studios, open mic poetry. Like almost it was that same week. I got the equipment. I said, hey, like give me like 2, 3, 4 weeks. And I, be ready. He's like, no, you come on Sunday. And I was like, I don't know what you expect me to do. It ain't gonna be great. But yeah, I mean, I just love music, and I'm always, even now, 20 years in, I'm discovering music I've never heard before.
Okay. How was that first night, if you remember anything about that?
Oh, I was a nervous wreck. I was trying to, I had a lot. I had CD turntables, so I had all my music on like MP3 CDs. So I had like files on the CDs, stuff like that. So this was before I could afford Serato, and I was going through, and I was just like, all right, I'm gonna play this, and I'm gonna play this, and I'm gonna go to this, and I'm gonna go to this, and so it's like, I seen Def Poetry Jam, and I know, I went to those nights before, and I was like, okay, I think I know what vibe they need. So I was already big into like neo soul and underground hip hop and Dilla, so I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna play this, and it's gonna be this chill vibe or whatever. So I did it, and I tried to coordinate songs that kind of linked what the poets were talking about. So if it was about love, it may be like, a Jill Scott or Dwelle song or something like that, or if it's along the lines of that. So, or I'll just find an instrumental to play. And I'll try to find, like, after a while, after I did it for so many times, when they introduced somebody, I had a song specifically for like different people at that point. And so it was growing pains, but nobody was like, oh, you did terrible or nothing like that, which I would have been fine with. I'd have just been like, hey, he told me to come here.